Director of Information Services here at the American Philatelic Research Library. Joining me today is Bob Hull to discuss his thoughts on stamp collecting. Stamp chats are made possible through the support of APS members and the Mighty Buck Club. If you want to learn more about the APS membership or the Mighty Buck Club, please visit our website at stamps.org. For those watching live, your microphone and camera are disabled during the presentation. You can use the chat section in Zoom to share your comments with fellow attendees. If you have any questions for our presenter, please submit them in the Q&A box. If you are viewing live on Facebook or YouTube, please post your questions and comments there. We will do our best to get to all of your questions following the presentation. Now to today's presenter. Bob Hull is a stamp collector and YouTuber, collecting all sorts of stamps. And despite having put stamps in his collection for over 50 years, he still considers himself a beginner. Bob is a proud general collector, though he does semi-seriously collect a couple of topics along the way. Some of you may know Bob on his social media under the name Bob Collects Stamps. Today, Bob will talk about general collecting, joys and frustrations, his rules of collecting, and a bit about his online efforts to share his love of stamps. With that, thank you for being with us, Bob. We look forward to your presentation today.
Well, so do I. Thank you very much, Scott. And thank you, everybody else, for coming in, too. I am Bob. I am usually Bob, as I say in my videos, and I'm going to start sharing my screen so that you can see me, or so you can see it, rather. I am often tongue-tied, so I apologize ahead of time, but I will endeavor to be as clear as I can. I want to, there, I'm apparently sharing my screen, thank you. And I do go under Bob Collects Stamps online on all the social media platforms that I am part of, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of those that celebrate. And I'm going to talk about general collecting, my way of general collecting anyway. It doesn't have to be your ways. And happy St. Patrick's Day, as I said, this lovely Irish stamp. If you don't celebrate, happy Thursday, or whatever day that you are watching this. If you're not wearing green, consider yourself pinched. I warned everybody on my social media that that was going to happen. I want to start with just a definition. This is important to me. Philately is the collection and study of postage stamps. That's it. If you collect stamps, if you study stamps in any way, shape, or form, if all you do is determine that was an Irish stamp back there and the next stamp is going to be from the US, that's studying postage stamps. So you are a philatelist. A little bit about me. I am into a lot of things. I'm into history, rocks, fossils. I was trained as an ornithologist and biologist, general biologist. I'm interested in archaeology. I'm a gardener. I kept fish for 40 years, kept and bred tropical fish. And I'm interested in science fiction and fantasy and go to science fiction conventions. That's that picture down there with the gentleman in the sailor suit. He was chairman of that convention, and that was his costume that year. And I do all of those things in addition to stamp collecting. So I'm a little bit all over the place, but it's reflected, almost all of it, in my stamp collecting. I started stamp collecting when I was about eight years old. I was handed a box like this, a cigar box, full of stamps. Bad Photoshop there, but oh well. And this was the only stamp I know that was in it, that I still know what was in it. I have all of the stamps that were in it, in that box. but this is the only one I'm sure that was there. This is my favorite stamp in all the world, the individual stamp. This box was given to me by my grandmother, who had been collecting stamps since she was a little girl, only she stopped when she was a little girl. And at the same age I was when she handed me that cigar box. She was a little, um, but this is that stamp from that box. And it's the only one I know of. I have around somewhere the third piece of that, but those two do fit together. But shortly after that, I did get albums. I got an Ambassador album. That is my original Ambassador album, and a Minuteman album, but I had the cover, the blue, red, white, and blue color cover that they have since discontinued. But that's the way I started with those stamps, and I still have those. This is from the Ambassador. I have lots of stamps in there. I collect them. I have filled blank pages, filled blank things. I put all the stickers in when I was a kid, and I now have all those stamps from Chad, but that are pictured. I just haven't put them in to the albums because I don't usually use albums anymore. But I still do have them. I also have the Senior Statement, um, and a Harris album, and other stuff as well. What I have moved to though is binders, as you see in the left-hand corner, or, yeah, the left corner there. And this is some of my U.S. collection now in binders. They are divided up, and they are kept in pages like this, stock pages. Um, this is earlier last year. I hadn't quite organized all of my U.S. stamps yet. I still haven't done it for the world stamps. This is what my world pages now look like. Different stamps, of course, but with little pieces of paper identifying them, some of them not being identified. And I collect everything. I really do. I collect everything. So I still have that torn stamp. I'm not going to throw it out. I collect extras and copies and all sorts of stuff because I can't get rid of them. I'm a collector. I'm an accumulator. This is what the U.S. collections now look like. I have mint on the left, used on the right, and I have identified them. And each number, Scott number, is what I use. Each Scott number gets its own line, or several lines, or pages, if it needs it, as many stamps as I have. I also have the albums, and my Minuteman, my Minuteman album is pretty well up to date with all the stamps I have from the U.S. Like I said, I keep everything. So I have lots and lots of duplicates. I don't like to share. I'm greedy. I don't like to share at all. I would rather keep an extra page of stamps than get rid of one. I have gotten rid of exactly 5 stamps that I can recall, and one of those was an oops. And so that's all the stamps I have. I've got this is one of the joys and frustrations. It's both. This is a typical stamp order from me. You can see Australia. You can see who else we got there. Anyway, lots of different countries, lots of different topics. On the lower right, there's mostly birds, and I collect birds and fish. I collect Australian birds mostly, but stamps from around the world. And it's a joy to get all these stamps and to order all these stamps. But it's a frustration because I get all these different stamps, and I collect all these different stamps, and they go into my collection, and they have to go through that collection. I have to go through it all the time and post put the Romanian stamps with Romanian stamps, and some of the topicals into topical albums and other things like that. So it's a frustration, and it's more time consuming than if I were to collect just US stamps, or if I were to focus on just Australian birds. Uh, it takes a lot more time, and it takes a lot more money. I will never, ever complete a set for a country. I will probably never have all of everything, uh, of anything. And that's okay. I can always hunt for it. Um, but I like it. I do have some rarities. I don't just collect common stamps. These are my penny black and my 2-bob blue and one of my penny reds. I've got several of those because they're fairly inexpensive. Um, I recommend anybody who keeps a general collection to get a couple of these. I've also got a US one, but get a couple of these just for fun. You know, save up all those pennies and buy a penny black, if you can possibly. It's you know, they make my collection, and your collection should be your collection. So if you don't want Great Britain, don't buy Great Britain, whatever. I don't so much anymore, but I did a lot of my initial collecting through packages like this. I had a friend go to the Netherlands a few years ago, and I asked her to stop by a post office and get me some stamps, and she completely misunderstood what I meant and got all of these stamps instead. She had to hunt them down in a souvenir shop. But it's part of my collection. I love them, and there's that story to go with them. So it's not just the stamps I'm collecting the stories too. And I probably will not open this set of stamps and break it up because of that story, and because I just enjoy it. But there are 25 Dutch stamps in there somewhere. One of my focuses is US 3-cent commemoratives. I try and get as many of those as I can. I'm trying to get them. It is a focus. I try and get singles and plate blocks, first day covers, used and mint rather. And so I try and do that. That is my main US focus. Though I also like the 19th century and other things. I just, I like all stamps. Every single stamp is wonderful to me. But this is a definite focus. I have not put in the study to know a lot about these stamps, but I am working on that. I've had other priorities. I even collect Cinderellas. I do. I think they're wonderful. I don't care if they're Cinderellas. I don't care if they're stickers. They had some part of postal history associated with them. This is one of my favorite Cinderellas. It's a John James Audubon picture of a wild turkey. It was put out by Baby Doc, excuse me, former dictator of Haiti after he was deposed. And he tried to put out his own postage instead of relying on Haiti postage, as he was his government in exile, as he called it. And I love the story behind it. There's more. I love the story behind it. I love the picture. I like Audubon art. And I like turkeys too. So to eat, and been chased by turkeys. Wild turkeys are mean. I also collect first day covers. One of the things I collect also, in addition to first day covers, collect covers, is covers from the USS Hornet from that have something to do with Apollo. USS Hornet is the aircraft carrier that picked up the Apollo 11 astronauts, the first people on the moon, um, when they returned to Earth. My uncle happened to be serving aboard the Hornet at the time, and he sent me one of these covers um, addressed to my mom, but he sent it. He knew I was a stamp collector and I would get it, and I have it. And I've continued that collection, adding to it, not just from the Apollo, but also other major things going on in the Hornet. I have a video about the Hornet and that cover somewhere in my list on YouTube. I have some other regular topics too. I collect butterflies. I'm not a strong butterfly collector, but I collected them for a while. Yes, these are all CTOs. I don't know if any of them are Cinderellas, but they're all CTOs, and I don't mind CTOs either. In your collection, I hope you will collect whatever you want. In my collection, I collect whatever I want. And if you don't like what I collect, that's okay. If I don't like what you collect, that's okay. But I won't ever tell you you can't collect it. So I also collect freshwater fishes. I love fish. As I said, I was an aquarist for over 40 years and involved in aquarium societies around the country. And I collect freshwater fishes. I love sturgeons. That's a sturgeon up in the Romania stamp up in the upper right-hand corner. And I love Siamese fighting fish, betas, which is the Cambodia stamp in the lower left. But it's one of my many topics. Another topic is birds. I collect mostly Australian birds. I had these scanned in, so I didn't go for all Australia, but and lately I've been on a flamingo kick. That's one of the nice things about being a generalist is that I can go, I like Australian birds, but how about a flamingo? And I went nuts and bought a bunch of flamingos. So that's great. I also collect some geology. There's not a lot. This one has fallen by the wayside. I am a volunteer, social media volunteer for the Pinal Geology and Mineral Museum. Pinal County is where I live in Arizona, and I run their social media. I'm a rock collector, fossil collector, as well as interested in it, and so I also collect some geology stamps as well. And anybody who's been following me for any amount of time on social media know that I'm a nut for King Arthur. And this is part of my King Arthur collection. I collect the stamps, anything Arthurian. The sheet there is a non-stamp. I'm not sure exactly what I would call it. An official stamp, Cinderella perhaps. In 1972, the UK, Great Britain Postage the Royal Mail went on strike, and those were issued by King Arthur Package Delivery Service. And there's several stamps, stamp designs, and stamp colors, and those were also part of a video, a couple of videos that I have put out on my YouTube channel, as well as some other information about, I've done all sorts of things with them. This is a project I'm working on now, and it's not just stamps. This is about that stamp in the middle in the background, US number 943. I am interested in the castle and the history of the Smithsonian Institution. That's James Smithson in the upper left and lower left, his portrait in concrete there. He was the person who gave the money to the U.S. in his will to found the Smithsonian Institute, or what became the Smithsonian Institution. The Smithsonian Castle was the first building of the Smithsonian. Now, the reason that I'm obsessed with that stamp and the Smithsonian is that I used to work in this building. This is the National Museum of Natural History today. It was the original Smithsonian Museum building after the castle, and it happened to open 112 years ago today. But I used to work on that top floor. If you see the top floor there, between the little teeny windows, between the moldings, I worked on that floor on the far side of the building. My office was on the other side of the building, kind of near the dome. But that's why I fell in love with the Smithsonian. So, as an intern there, and then became an employee at some point. I'm sharing all this stuff that you've just seen. I share it. You can find all of my social media stuff linked and other shares through bobcollectstamps.com. That's my logo, my surprised face in the middle of my US #1. But I share on all sorts of social media and in all sorts of ways. However, 11 and a half months ago, I had a heart attack. Ended up with a quadruple bypass. And since then, I have pulled back a lot from some of the social media. I'm finally back and doing things again, and will be continuing that. I kept up the video channel, but I dropped a post. I've dropped a couple of things I'll tell you about. But I'm hoping to start those back up again now as we go forward. This is one of the ways I have been able to share stamps is I don't exhibit properly, or whatever. I don't exhibit at stamp show exhibits, but I did this little one-page exhibit and at least one other for last year's American Topical Association one-page online exhibit. I will be participating in, I think I will be participating this year again, if I haven't missed the deadline already. And I will be participating in the Webmasters show that will be coming up for websites and social media coming up. That's the Webmasters Association, not the Topical Association. I do have social media. I have a video channel, a YouTube video channel, and a podcast. The podcast has not been updated since my heart attack. I'm gonna get back on that. I keep having ideas. It's kind of hard with a podcast, though, to talk about something that's so visual as stamps. But I do my best. The YouTube channel is all over the place. I have weirdness. I have some experimental things. I have talks like this. I have talks about stamps. I have talks about collecting. I am about to film today or tomorrow for Monday. Watch for me Monday. A unboxing video. I have two orders that came in, and I need to do those as an unboxing video. And Bob Collects Stamps, I'll tell you, I got that name because Graham was exploring stamps and Ted was talking about stamps when I started this. They were big names, and I decided I was going to collect stamps. So I just fit myself in between them. Neither one of them collect stamps. Yeah, right. At least I found a name for myself. I do a little bit of extreme philately. I am trying more and more. I'm a little bit stuck because not a lot of stamps were issued that involve Arizona or southern Arizona, but these nice cactus stamps, I found examples of all four of them, um, including a saguaro that's not quite in my backyard. It's about a mile from me. Uh, all the other saguaros around me are in gardens, so this one is wild. I have something called the 365 Stamps Project that was started January 1st, 2021, and is now on number 107. I was going to do a stamp a day, had my heart attack, continued for 2 days because I had, or 2 or 3 days, because I had some keyed in to go up, but I'm going to start again. This is the last one I did. I'm going to start at number 108. I'm going to go through and get to those 365 somehow. And yeah, I know I'm talking about the future, but that's what I've been doing, and you can find that at stamps.com. It's one of the links at the top, and you could go through all 107 of those. I'm also, my most exciting thing to me anyway, is using a program, a website called ArtSteps. ArtSteps is set up for art galleries and museums and classrooms to make a three-dimensional art show. So you can walk, it works with VR as well as on a flat screen, and you get a image or you get to walk through it. You can change your view. You can walk up to anything. You can push buttons. You can read stuff. And this is inside the exhibit. Of course, I did King Arthur because I did. There's the first hallway. There are also videos available in here, and you can walk through and watch them and see all the stamps that I have that are King Arthur stamps, Arthur related. And there's another of the rest of the hallways. So you can see that second, third, fourth hallways. And I have a label on each of these, and they're in the VR. The only complaint I've had about this when people go visit it is that the stamps are poster sized. It's like, yeah, because it's virtual reality and I want you to be able to see it. But, oh well. But they have labels, just like in an art gallery they might. Also, some of the stamps have those blue buttons. They're labeled info, and you push that, and you can hear me talk about the stamps and tell you something about the stamps. And I try with these to try both some of the stories of the stamps as well as the technical stuff that's about them. My rules of stamp collecting. I said I'd talk about my rules of stamp collecting. And these, I believe, are the only rules needed. Your results may vary. And I say that about everything. You don't have to follow my rules. I wish you would, because they're important, as you'll see. But these are the only rules I think are worthwhile for stamp collecting. The first rule, the number one rule, the best rule, is have fun. It's a hobby, unless it's your business. But even if it's your business, if you're not having fun, there are better businesses to get into. Don't follow anybody else's rules. I encourage you to follow mine, but don't follow anybody else's. Yeah, that's egocentric of me. Well, you could do that. Don't follow anybody else's rules, even mine, really. Take care of your stamps. If you don't take care of your stamps, they won't be as fun. You can, of course, do whatever you want. You can make art of them. You can tear them up into little bitty pieces and make confetti. That's up to you. You can, buy well, you can't buy the magenta anymore, the 1 cent magenta, but you could, buy whatever the equivalent is for your budget and tear it up into little pieces. But I'd rather you take care of your stamps. And the final rule, and actually the second most important, is take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, like I didn't, then you could have a heart attack and not be able to do stamps for a while. And that's no fun, believe me. It is truly not fun. And I know that was quick, but that's my slideshow. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and let Scott tell me if there are any questions. I see a couple that might be there. And I hope you heard something that you enjoyed.
Thank you, Bob. That was really, really enjoyable. It's great to see different approaches to the hobby, and yours is probably the most sort of inviting in terms of just sort of going at it with what you want to do, like have fun with it, go into it for the things that you want to sort of collect. We do have a couple of questions.
Yes,
one I always like to start with. I know you, just for my own personal edification, I know you said you started with a cigar box at age 8. What was it when you first looked at a stamp that sort of caught your eye or caught your interest in terms of turning that into a hobby?
I'm not really sure. Part of it was the family history, because in that cigar box or associated with it, I'm not sure exactly how it came, were a set of postcards. And the postcards were all addressed to my great grandparents, who I knew, but I didn't know them really well.
Mm-hmm.
But they were all from 1905 to 1925, and I found it was just fascinating to me to see where all these people that they knew visited. They were from around the world, and they were interesting, talking to my great grandparents as if they weren't my great grandparents, but were just their friends. And it was, you don't always think of your family that way, especially for me, at least the elders of my family.
Right.
And that just took my interest, and I kept going.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that have come in. One of the first ones that came in was, and I'll just read it. Why do some of the basic guides for stamp collecting insist on having you start as a specialist in some way? I think the person's probably looking at some albums particularly that sort of really channel you towards being more specialized.
Right. I'm not sure. Some of them, I have heard a lot of people that think that philately and stamp collecting really should be about the specifics. You have to know Scott number, 17A, B, C, D, E, F, G ad infinitum, and how to do that, and how to watermark, and how to do all that, that you be able to read and write a book about a stamp. Or a set of stamps, the Bureau issues for the United States, or 1955 Ghana, whatever the stamp is. And some people find a lot of joy in that. I do with my Smithsonian stamps. I'm finding out all sorts of stuff, and I really enjoy that. But it's and it's also, if you can't, as I said, you cannot collect all the stamps in the world. You can't even, for most, collect all the stamps of a country without spending thousands of dollars, and perhaps more, but add a couple of zeros. But I think a lot of people like the idea of being able to have a finite hobby.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. A lot of people collect first issues. I collect first issues, but a lot of people will collect a dead country because they have a set. And I think a lot of people think that's the only way to collect, and it's not.
Yeah. A couple of people were asking for definitions. I sort of answered them one-on-one, but I wouldn't mind if there are others in our audience that sort of might be interested. What is a Cinderella stamp?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, a Cinderella stamp is a stamp that was not issued for the purpose of postage. It was issued to raise money. Basically, it's a sticker. Sometimes it was not, you could maybe buy them from the post office or the government, but you couldn't put it on an envelope to send an envelope.
Right.
So it's even if it was sold by the post office of a country, it was not sent. It is not useful for postage. So it was basically the post office selling us, or the government selling a sticker.
Right. And another one that came up, what is a CTO?
The other, yes, I thought about that when I was talking about Cinderellas.
Okay. I was going to interrupt you, but I thought I'd let you answer it at the end.
CTO means canceled to order. And what that is it can be a lot of different things. For the most part, it is when a government, postal organization, whatever, takes a sheet of stamps and just cancels everything on there. They're no longer good for postage. They may have been meant for postage. Some are Cinderellas and they cancel them to fake people into believing they were used. Sometimes they print, they don't just go along with a cancel machine. They actually print the postmark onto the sheet of stamps as another layer of ink. But canceled to order can also mean you walking up to the post office. The U.S. Post Office will do this and say, this is my sheet of stamps, or this is my first day cover. Can you cancel it today? So that technically is a CTO. It's not seen in the same way as a government going through, or a postal authority going through and canceling a bunch of stamps together. It's a single CTO. But a lot of collectors have that kind of CTO in their older stamp collections. It's not so common today. And the first day cover from the U.S. Post Office is a CTO.
Right.
If they don't put an envelope and send it through the mail.
Right. People were really interested in your virtual King Arthur exhibit. Where can that be found?
Should be able to. I will make sure this afternoon that right after this, that it can be found from the front page of bobcollectstamps.org. The platform is free. It's easy to learn. It's fun. It's multi-dimensional. I'm already working on, I'm trying to work on the next one. But it's cool. It's a multimedia way to exhibit stamps, and I'm gonna do more.
Yeah, that sort of leads into a question that I have that really interests me. You do sort of share your knowledge and your experience and your thoughts on a variety of platforms, social media platforms, which I find really interesting. I particularly like your TikTok, if people haven't gone there, where you have one stamp and you talk about it, or you define philatelic terms. Could you sort of talk about the challenges of each? Like in a podcast, you have a much longer form. In YouTube, you have a longer form, whereas something like TikTok is very brief. YouTube is a little longer. And you talked earlier about it being such a visual hobby. So could you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, the podcast episodes, for instance, tend to be how I collect. A couple of reviews that people had asked me to do, and a couple of other things. But I can't easily talk about the design of a stamp except to describe it on the podcast. The YouTube channel, I really wanted to. That one I'm experimenting with. I'm still experimenting with everything, but the YouTube channel is the easiest, I think, because I can just put up a stamp and talk about it for 5 minutes, tell all the information. Um, there is a podcast about CTOs, by the way. I think there's a YouTube about CTOs too, but uh, Twitter I use for being social. Yesterday, this morning, I wished everybody, with that Irish stamp that I showed at the beginning, I wished everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. Excuse me. Yesterday, because I haven't been doing a lot of stamp content lately, I threw up a stamp and said, "Here's a stamp," and keep you interested. But and I'll respond. Gary Lowe is one of the people that I chat with frequently, going back and forth, and a lot of the other big social media people, for some reason, will answer me. I don't know why. I just, always privileged to sit somewhere near the big folk, big kids table. TikTok, I haven't used as much as I would like. I've just got a few videos there. Those are kind of difficult for me because I tend to be a little long-winded, but I have to write the script and I have to put those on and that sort of stuff. Yesterday's TikTok was advertising this, but I'm trying to do more and more. It's taken me this long to really get back in the swing of things. And I've had several other priorities the past year. So as I regained my health, and I'm back. So my social media should start to take off in the next couple of months again.
Yeah, someone asked, and this is sort of just a general question, just your thoughts on it. So you have a fairly large collection, it sounds like. Do you have any thoughts on what to do with your collection once you're no longer with us, or what to do when you pass on? Do you have thoughts about sort of, encouraging young people to, get interested in the hobby, that we can pass this hobby on to them?
Well, I do. I encourage young people to get involved, and if you have young people in your life, to try to do that. My nieces are just at that age where they might start to be interested. They're also approaching the age where they're going to be definitely not interested. And so I'm sharing things like this with them, and milestones and cool stuff. But what I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with my stamp collection. It's not huge as big stamp collectors go, but it's not rooms full like some stamp collectors have. I live in Arizona now, and there is the Postal History Foundation in Tucson, which has been closed since I got here. And I might give it to them. I might, sell it to somebody at some point if my eyes fail, something else happens.
Okay. I had a question. Oh yeah, you were showing your stamp binders that you used to put your collection in, and I think someone was wondering about the cost involved with that. Is that a good way to go still, or is there better ways that are a little more sort of economical for people?
Economical would be Manila. I do the fancy, those are about $1 a sheet, $1 to $1.50, depending on where you get them. And then I buy them when I can afford them. Sometimes that's $25 a month. Sometimes that's none for 6 months. It's taken me a lot of time to get that number. I use the 7S, the 7 slots per page, and double-sided. For my U.S. collection, I have splurged all out, and I do them single-sided, even though the one shot was mint on the left side
Right.
and used on the right. What I have done is that is mint, and those used are on one side. There is nothing on behind them. So I have really splurged on that. Um, for the world collection, I have done that for a couple countries, but then there's only 2 pages. And for something like Great Britain or Soviet Union, where I have a huge number of stamps, or Hungary, there are a huge number of stamps, I use both sides. And I have made the decision not to stack my stamps in those, but
Right.
to let each stamp show on its own. And
Right.
I don't know if I will be able to continue that going forward much longer, but that's what I've been able to do so far. But manila pages,
Mhm.
Stacking your stamps, if you have, especially if you have multiples, so that a couple of pages of multiples, you
Right.
could probably fit all those on 1 or 2 lines easily.
Yeah.
And a manila instead of the clear plastic, you just can't see the whole stamp. But since I'm using these as albums, I show the whole stamp.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned briefly in your rules of collecting about storing your stamps. Do you ever have any thoughts about the best way to store stamps, keep them sort of in mint condition or in good condition?
Well, depending on what you want to do, you could, even if you use the plastic pages that I used, you could put a stamp in there and then put a bunch of stamps in a glassine envelope
Yeah.
and file
True.
those somewhere.
Yep.
Use archival materials when possible. Glassine envelopes have gotten a bad rap recently because some glassine envelopes cause some photographs and film to deteriorate. Stamps are not photographs, stamps are not film, so they don't deteriorate like that. There should be no problem with glassine. I have glassine envelopes that are 50 years old and or more because of where I got them, and they, even when they start to crumble, they don't seem to affect the stamps inside unless they get wet. And the glassine, being paper,
Right.
can get wet, so you have to,
Right.
they put them in plastic boxes. But
I know I've talked to some beginners in the hobby that have gotten into this. They design their own stamp pages. Have you ever done that or have any interest in doing that?
I've tried a couple.
Mhm.
I think it's great. I am frustrated with the programs that do it. I actually, though for my 3-cent commemorative collection, I have designed a horizontal and a vertical page. They're all the same,
Right.
and will eventually transfer a copy. It's got just for those stamps, it will have a mint and a used and a plate block, and then a separate page for a first day cover. But they're nothing fancy. They've got a border around it and some blank spots. And then I will fill in with blocks of text about the stamp as I go through those. And
I think that's all the questions we have.
oh no!
Yeah. So we've come to that moment. Bob, we want to thank you for this excellent presentation. Remember, if you missed any part of today's stamp chat, please visit the APS YouTube page to watch this presentation and share it with your friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the APS YouTube page for all of our future stamp chats and other video content. If you're not a member of the APS, please join today and become part of our stamp community. For more information about that, visit us at stamps.org. Thank you again for joining us today. Be sure to check out our website for future stamp chats, and goodbye to everyone. Thanks for attending.